Scenario: a child who is 6 weeks post-concussion comes to your office. The parents are complaining that her behavior has been poor. She has been acting out and is having a lot of difficulty in school.
That's what makes it difficult for the concussed child, because everybody recovers at a different pace. So it is different for each child. We do know the data, most kids will recover in about a week to 10 days. Some go 2 weeks, and it depends on how severe the concussion was. It also is also impacted by previous variables, like things like if they struggled in school, had learning difficulties, had attention problems, or if they struggled with things even as subtle as mood, like depression or anxiety. Those things can exaggerate the symptoms. We also know that there's gender differences. Women in the adult world recover a little slower, and it's the same is true for kids. They're a little slower in their recovery. And then finally, kids that are younger take often a little bit longer time to get back to baseline. So those are all things that are considered when we make the recommendations and try and work with the families. Many parents don't understand the amount of emotional stress or burden that this places on a child, especially when, and you can range from a child who is a high achiever and is very perfectionistic and wants to do well. If they were to experience a concussion and then go back to school and all of a sudden get a failing grade, the emotional impact to that is significant. And it's understanding. They have to understand where the child is coming from. And for some children, for some teens, that can be difficult. The other part of this is the child that's been concussed does not feel very good, and they want to get back and do the activities they've done before. They want to be social, they want to hang out with peers, but sometimes hanging out with peers is, let's say if it's on a weekend after the concussion and they're staying over at someone's house and they're staying up late and they're not eating great food and their sleep is off. All of those things combine to make those symptoms worse. Most typically the headaches come back the next day, or they just don't feel well. So you have to monitor it very closely, and sometimes it's just having the parents recognizing these signs so they can help the child realize that a big concert may not be the thing to do after a concussion. Our typical concussion evaluations last 2 hours. The first hour is a clinical interview. And sometimes it's only an hour. If the child is making recovery, the symptoms are decreasing, and we're able to get them back to school even on a gradual basis. The most important message for the parents to hear is that a concussion is not a lifelong or even long-term problem for the majority of cases. In particular, an uncomplicated concussion, those children will make, or adolescents will make, a full recovery. It's when you have other factors that may make it complicated, like a previous head injury or even a string of previous concussions, which for kids in contact sports is not uncommon. You then begin to have to educate as you move through the process of where they're at.